All right, well, hi everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Latte Librarians, where we take you from cup to cover on our favorite reads. And how are you doing? How are you this week?
I'm good. I got a lot of work done this week for my job, so that was nice. And I'm tired, but I'm also doing good. I have my coffee. No, it's not from Starbucks. I just have the reusable cup.
I
um,
love it.
and yeah, not much is happening except just working, reading, and drinking coffee.
I love it. Yeah, and honestly, that's kind of how I feel too, is like, we finally are fully back into the swing of things. It's like halfway through January already, and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh wow. Like, it's work, read, clean, sleep, coffee, repeat. I don't know, all the things,
yeah,
And I just absolutely love I love the routine part of it, but also at the same time I'm like I wish that I didn't have to sacrifice sleep to do all the things I want to do. I'm like, oh, I'm so tired. But it's okay.
yeah,
I do long for the holidays again to sleep in, but it's all right.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, today we are going to be talking through our review of the final book in the trilogy, which is Reached, by Ally Condie. I not seeing the book on my desk. Okay, well that's fine. Oh, she has it there, ladies and gentlemen. Anne has it. Oh, I love the cover. It's so pretty. It's so
Yes.
pretty and red and oh, okay. I love it. Anyway, so we're going to dive right in today, but first, before we do, just want to let everybody know you can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You can also follow us on YouTube. So please go ahead and subscribe to these channels. Follow us. If you're familiar with our Instagram, we are also there too. So please don't be afraid to follow us, comment, let us know if you're reading along. We'd love to hear from you guys. We also want to know if you have any cozy reads that you guys want to recommend to us. We want to hear about them. So anyway, all right, let's dive right into Reached by Ally Condie. Anne, your overall thoughts on this book?
Um, okay. I'm gonna start with my rating. So, my rating is definitely a 5 star. Um,
Okay.
it's if not five, like 4.5 or 4.9. Like it's pretty up there. Um, it was just so good. Like I remember I listened to the 6 hour audiobook like right before the end. I listened to the full rest of the book just in one sitting. I was like, I'm finishing this today. And I think it was like New Year's Eve, actually. It was
Really?
New Year's Eve, yes. All day on New Year's Eve, I read the rest of this book, and it was like 6 hours left in the audiobook. I was like, okay, I have to be somewhere at 7, so that means we have to leave at 6:30. So if I start right now, I am definitely finishing it by then. And I finished it. Yeah.
Anne,
It
that's
I
crazy.
yeah, it was
How do you feel emotionally? This is a heavy book.
I I don't
Uh,
I feel like pain, but like happiness because in that last half of the book is where everything goes down and I'm like it was just yeah, like some characters you don't know if they're gonna survive or not. Some characters you're like, oh, didn't expect that to happen.
yeah.
Why'd you do that? Hmm. And it was just a roller coaster. Like I was texting Ash, for the audience. I was texting Ash like, "What just happened?" And then there was a part she told me to call her when I got to, and I called her. I was like, "Where? Why?" like flipping back and forth in the pages. It was insane. So yeah, I think this is definitely like 4.5 to 5. I really liked how the I liked how the story, the whole series was resolved in this, and that even though it's the last book, it still had its own lead into a climax. Like it wasn't just like, oh, it's the last book, like everything is chill. It was like, this is the last book. Like, get emotionally punched multiple
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it was a fun experience and a crazy ride. So that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
I totally concur with your thoughts. I think um if this book was very emotional for me. I'm not normally like a crier when it comes to reading, but I remember reading this book and like shedding tears. Like, and just being like, what just happened? What is happening? And I think you said it so well of like this book just has its own approach to a climax. And thinking about it, I'm like, it's so true. It resolves so many problems and issues from the first two books, but then while doing that, introduces a slew of new problems. And it's like, what I thought this was solved. And so it's like really fun. I say fun with air quotes, It's like it's not fun. It's emotionally traumatizing. But it's like you start out with, you know, all these problems are resolved, and then it's like, "Oh, this situation couldn't get any worse." And the author's like, "Yes, it can. Watch this." And you're like, "No, don't do that. No." Anyway, so then I'm left there kind of stunned and speechless, and I'm just like, "What just happened? What just happened?"
Yeah. And
So,
she
anyway.
doesn't mess around. Like she in the first chapter is like, "Hey, be shocked."
Boom.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I was like, "What?" I had to
yeah.
reread because I was like, "Did I just read what I think I just read? I don't know."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I did.
And you're like, "Huh? Huh?"
Yeah.
Anyway, for those of you who have thought about reading this series and you're really curious about the third book, just know there is death. Death happens, and it is gruesome. Not graphic, like violent, but it's just emotionally gruesome. You're like these characters that I know and love. Like, why did this person have to die? I'm not telling you who.
Yeah.
You have to find out who. But it's like, it's just so sad. And then there's like 17 near death experiences, and you're like, what? Like, are you going to die? Are you going to die like this person too? Anyway, and so you're just always on the edge of your seat reading this book, and so I absolutely
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, it
Um,
was crazy.
was there anything in the book that struck you as unexpected, or things that when you read it you were like, that was a plot twist I was not anticipating?
Yes. I can think of two specifically. Um, I would say for both, I'm gonna just say spoiler alert. Like, if you haven't read this and you want to, maybe read it first before listening to this episode. Because
Yes, it's
these,
kind of it's getting challenging not to talk about spoilers as we get to the final book. So we might as well just kind of start spilling some of them. We won't give you all of them, but
yeah,
we have to toss in a few to at least have an episode for today.
yeah, yeah. So the first instance was right off the bat on page 1 of this book. Finding out that Xander is an official. I was like, huh? And then on top of that, in the same chapter, finding out that he's also part of the rebellion and like was part of the rebellion for as long as he's been alive. Like he was one of the kids that was immune to the red pill. And so he kind of was like all part of the rebellion. even while Kasha was kind of forming her own rebellion in the first two books of like, I don't want to be with him, I want to be with this other guy. Like, yeah, it was crazy. I remember reading.
She has to read it. She has to read it.
He's like describing where he is and who he's with and blah blah blah. And he says somewhere in the chapter, let me look for it. Or maybe it was in the prologue.
Okay, audience,
Here.
while Anne is finding... Oh, she just found it. Never mind.
Sorry.
That's
Yeah,
okay.
I just found it. Literally the first page of chapter 1. First page of chapter 1. Xander's describing a scene of officials going up to a house and like pronouncing a newborn baby as like part of the population and all that stuff the society does. And he says that he sees these officials, these three officials, and this sentence on page 1, it says, or on page 7, it says, the officials stand close enough to the glass that I can see the circle-shaped insignia sewn on the right pocket of the youngest official's uniform. The circle is bright red and looks like a drop of blood. I smile, and he does too, because the official is me. And I was like, excuse me?
And you just have to pause, and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild.
That was like
Any
the
other...
first page of the book, too.
Yeah.
Like,
And that's just setting the scene for all the things that you're gonna read, and you're like, huh?
yeah.
Wait, I don't remember. Wait, that's not how this is supposed to go. What? Anyway.
Yeah. And then the other thing that came to mind was when someone was mysteriously later in the book unplugging people who had this plague and basically taking away their life support. And I was like, gee, who would do that? It's probably some unimportant like character who's one of the nurses is like failing at their job or whatever. And it's not. It ended up being Hunter. And I was like, no, this is not okay. I was so upset. I was mad at
I
Hunter,
know.
but I was also upset that it had to be him. And I'm like, why? So those are the two things that I was like, wow, this is crazy. And there's others, but those two specifically, I was like, can we just like take it back? Like let's just...
Yeah, you're like, wait, let's rewind. What just happened? Huh?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Those
remember
two
feeling
parts.
that way. I was like, what? You didn't. But he did.
He did.
And I'm like... So then you like go back to like the second book where they meet Hunter, and you're just like, you. I'm like, I know your future. I know what's gonna happen. I'm like, you're gonna do this. I can't get attached to you. I can't do it. Anyway, yeah. I remember reading that and just being like, he did not. He what? That's him. And then seeing how many people he put in jeopardy, and also seeing like how many people, like, he actually did end up killing, and then also seeing like, it just like, oh, makes me so sad. It makes me so sad.
He's one of those characters that like you don't get attached to the same way you do the other characters, but you get attached to him because the other characters are attached to him. You know, it's like a sympathetic attachment where you're like,
yeah,
I don't really know much about this character, but the other characters know about this character a lot and have a relationship with him. So you almost feel like sympathetically mad at him because everyone else loves him in the book until he does that.
Yeah. And you're like, it literally reminds us of the reel that we made the other day of the clip of the last episode. You
Yeah.
know, his life was so interesting, and he knows so many things and so has so many talents. And it's like, well, so do serial killers. And
Yeah.
I would put Hunter in that category. And it's
I
like,
would
oh,
too.
you're like, wait, it's actually genuinely true, you know? It's like when you really want to get to know somebody who has a wild history, you're like, you're in for a ride, buckle up. You never know who this person is. Honestly. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, what just happened? So,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
hilarious.
true. Yeah, so those are the
Real
two
quick,
parts that I was like,
I love it. Yeah. And honestly, there are so many more moments that I'm just like, oh no, it's getting worse. Oh no. Wait. Oh no. Oh no.
yeah.
And then it's like a moment of like, oh yay, they're saved. Oh no, they're not. Like when Xander gets framed for that whole
Yes.
like life support unplugging, and then like somebody asked him to destroy the medicine, the vaccine, because it was like it was defective, and so he was, and then that person dies, and so then everybody's blaming him for killing that person and destroying the medicine, and he's like, it's not me, that wasn't me, I was told. And he's also like an official from the society, so then it's like his case is almost like closed, like it's the perfect framing, and you're like, oh no, it's not his fault, it's not his fault, it's not his fault, oh
Yeah.
no. And so then he's like gonna die, and he's like held in this cellar to like await his death, and it's like, how is he gonna get out of this one? Like how? Anyway, so there's moments like
Yeah.
that where it's just lingering suspension, and I'm just like, I can't. Stop. Wait. No. 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 Anyway, real quick, I just wanted to read the synopsis for this book. I realized I didn't do that at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
Just to kind of encapsulate how it connects to like number one and two. So the synopsis from Storygraph, which we're both on Storygraph, with I don't remember the Storygraph name. What's our name on Storygraph?
The
We
Latte
have an account there, so
Librarians, I'm pretty sure.
great.
It's either
We
the
are the
Latte
Latte
Librarians
Librarians.
or the Latte Librarians.pod, but I think it's the first
Okay,
one.
I'll double check that. But we're on there. So if you want to follow us along as we update our current reads and what we're reading and how we review things, go ahead and follow us there. The link is in our bio on Instagram, so we would love to see you there. Anyway, Storygraph is amazing, and the description for Reached on Storygraph is: after leaving society to desperately seek the Rising and each other, Kasha and Kai have found what they were looking for, but at the cost of losing each other yet again. Kasha is assigned undercover in Central City. Kai is outside the borders. In an airship pilot with Indy. And Xander is a medic with a secret. All too soon, everything starts shifting again. And it's like, Crossed feels pointless at this point. It's like they just spent the entire book trying to find each other, only to have to just split up again. And you're just
Yeah.
like, are you kidding me? Anyway, so, yeah.
Yeah.
Were there any characters that I mean, besides Hunter, were there any characters that you were shocked at their actions and what they did? Or are there any relationships that you are happy or sad to see go?
I
It's a
was
loaded question.
shocked.
Sorry.
I was shocked at how Indy ended up, Indy's death. I was surprised by that. Honestly, I was shocked that she kissed Kai, or did he kiss her? I think crossed.
I don't
She
remember.
kissed him. I think she kissed him in both scenarios. I don't remember though. But I was shocked that they kissed. And I was getting kind of mad at Kai when he was with Indy in the rebellion camp. Because they were training to be pilots, like flying pilots, specifying because the whole book is about the pilot. But they're training to be flying pilots and all these things. And you see in Kai's perspective that he's like maybe getting some feelings for Indy, but he's like, but she's not Kasha. Just like how Kasha did with Xander, where she was like, oh, my feelings are a little more conflicted than I realized and crossed. And she's
Yeah.
like, but I still need to find Kai. And I'm like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you need, like, honestly, I would have shipped Kai and Indy, to be honest, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously that's not how it ends up. But I'm just like, I got a little mad at Kai because he's over here like, I love Kasha. But then also, at one point he said that he cared for her because he like understood her, or talking about Indy, and I'm like, okay, like it just seemed like a little too much for just like a friendly care, and I was like, do you remember that you're trying to find Kasha? Yeah, so I was shocked by her death, and Kai's situation with her, whatever that was. Um, and I was pleasantly surprised by how Xander ended up at the end of the book. I
Yeah.
was very pleased with that. By that point, I was like, great, Cash with Kai, cool, I don't care. Xander is happy.
Yay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was really excited to see how his relationship ended up. And I loved how he finally was able to choose. And, for so long in this book, he's like, I think I still like Kasha. I think I still like Kasha. And this girl comes along and she's just helping him out. She's just like, hey, we are attending to the sick. You are a medic and I am a nurse. So we are working day and night together. We got to get this problem solved. And he's like, great. And all the while, his feelings for this girl are growing. He doesn't know it yet. He doesn't know. He's just like, oh, I think I still like Kasha. And then Kasha's like, it's okay. I love Kai. And then Xander's like, wait a minute. I don't love you anymore. I love Lay, the nurse.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so it's really cute to like see them end up together. And I'm like,
Yeah.
yay. Yay. Like,
I
I'm so happy for you guys.
yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. I really, really loved that for him. Um but yeah.
it
I
like
kind of
made me like shed a happy tear. I was like, they deserve it. He
yeah.
deserves it.
They both
A healthy
do.
relationship.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
both do. Lay and Xander both really deserved a good ending.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I'm happy for them. Um, but okay, how do you feel about the way the book ended? How do you feel about where we left off?
I like it. I really like it a lot. Yeah, I like how Xander ended up with someone and was happy, and I like the connection of who he ended up with because it's not just a nurse. It was Vic's girlfriend before Vic died.
Hmm.
And she was like, oh, my match died. And you find all of that out in the book. And so I liked the connection of her to the rest of the group. And I liked that he just ended up not alone. Because until book 3, I was like, Xander's going to be alone. And I'm going to be mad at Cassius still. um, But no, yeah, it was a nice ending. I was very satisfied with that ending. Yeah.
I like it.
How,
Yeah, I was satisfied with it too. And I think a lot of it was left unresolved on purpose. Like, what's the future? Is the Rising actually gonna throw over the society? I don't think we ever find out.
yeah, they kind of just lived peacefully in their relationships, and I think that shows that that wasn't the point. Even though the characters were set on the rebellion, the society being unfair, and all of that, the point was for them to reach the goal of being able to be together. And the book kind
Yeah.
of ends by indirectly saying that it doesn't matter what happens because they all end up happy wherever they are because they're
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. And I think that's really important to remember, like, okay, well, that isn't the moral of the story, you know? Overthrowing the society isn't the moral of the story. And I really liked how in the book the pilot is explaining how it's like, hey, actually, the rising and the society are more intertwined and are more coexistent than you actually think they are. You know? It's like
Yeah.
it's very fabricated. This reality is very much, it feels staged in a lot of ways. Um, and so it was like there's this realization of like, are the rising and the society actually that different after all? In a lot of ways, they're very much the same. But in other ways, it's like you can actually there's creativity that's allowed, and you are allowed to be with whoever you want to be, and the government that you live under does not get to decide every little detail about your life. So, but it anyway. So I really like how you said it of just like it actually doesn't matter if they overthrew the society or not. Which is why it's what you think is where the book is going, at least in the first like the ending of the first book. You're like, okay, are they gonna overthrow the society or not? Are they gonna do it or not? And then by book two, you're like, okay, are Kasha and Kai gonna be together or not? And then by book three, you're like, wait, actually, the rising, it doesn't matter. You know? Like
Yeah.
the rising and the rebellion and the society, it all doesn't really matter. And
Yeah,
it's like, oh, they
cuz
got to be with the people they wanted to be with, and they were allowed to choose.
yeah, cuz the whole reason that Kasha wanted to overthrow the society was so she could be with Kai and not have any consequences. Well,
Yeah.
not, you know what I mean. Um,
Yeah.
but just not be in trouble. Like she just wanted to freely pick who she could date.
Yeah.
It was never like the Hunger Games where it's like this government needs to fall because it's a terrible government. It was like this government needs to fall because I should have the choice to choose. Um,
Yeah.
so I really like that the author says where they end up in the end. But you really see that it doesn't matter where because, or what happens with the government or whatever, because that wasn't the intended purpose of the author.
Yeah. Yeah. What did you think of the trilogy as a whole, now that we're at the end?
I I liked it. I really liked it. Um, Reached was my favorite, probably. Crossed was my least favorite, and then Matched was like a good number
Somewhere in the
one.
middle?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Overall, I think the author did a really good job of having intensity but also still having a resolution because you can't have too much
Mm-hmm.
intensity in book 3 to where like you don't have enough time to get it all solved. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think she started right off the bat with like Xander's an official, he's part of the Rising, and all of this stuff because then it gave room in the middle ish to kind of like chill out, and then at the end everything get resolved. um and yeah, so overall, it was a really enjoyable series. Really kept me on my toes, and definitely was different. I think from what I've read before, um, but I really liked it. So yeah, what are your thoughts on it overall?
Oh, let me collect my thoughts. Um, when I think of this book, this series as a whole, there's just a lot of emotions that come with it, you know? And I think this book does such a just the series as a whole does such a good job of balancing every emotion that you can possibly think of. You know, I've never felt happier, sadder, more angry, more stressed, more anxious for some characters than this series. And it's like, I didn't expect to like be thrown in like this, you know? I'm like, Ally Condie, great job, but also what the heck? I was not expecting to have to like wipe away tears through this series, you know? But I
Yeah.
think that's just something that's so like the art form of this book and this series is just so good of like, and I love the way you put it of like the intensity and the resolution have to be in balance in order for a series to be readable and to be enjoyable. I think that's true for this series as well, is, you know, intensity builds greater problems and greater conflict. And so then the greater the conflict is, the more relieved you are when there's a resolution. And I think that was intentional, and I really appreciated how it just was so it was so eloquent the way she did it. It was like ordered chaos, you
Yeah.
know? She orchestrated this chaos to be so just so precise, and then you read through it and you're like, it feels like a storm. I have no idea what's going on, but it's the perfect storm. You know, you're
Yeah.
kind of left clueless. You're kind of freaking out. You're kind of like, are they gonna die? Is this gonna happen? Are they alive? Like, you know, and you're just like, oh no, people are living and dying and recovering and getting sick left and right, and people are finding cures to diseases and then getting framed, and people are being serial killers, and you're like, what is happening? And anyway, and then it all just comes to this peaceful halt. Like, it's like intensity, 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 stop, halt,
Yeah.
peace. You've made it. And it's like, and your body takes a minute to process, and then you realize it's over. And all the intensity has been resolved. And some haven't been resolved maybe socially or politically, but relationally, things are resolved. And you're
Yeah.
like, thank goodness I'm ready to be done with this series because oh my goodness, this was so intense and I loved it, but I'm also ready to be done. Like I've been through enough trauma. So, yeah, I absolutely loved it. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, I really like it also had the kind of the vibe of those Instagram memes that you see that are like when everything's happy but there's still 100 pages left. That did happen once in this book where they found a cure and Xander was giving it to every patient and I was like, "Oh, cool. Like everyone's chill." And then
We're
I was like,
good. And then you looked and you're
"Yeah.
like, I'm only halfway through. Uh-oh.
Yeah." I was like, "Gee, I wonder what else she's going to write about because it feels pretty good right now."
Like we could just end it right here.
Yeah, this is
We're good
good.
right here. People
But
don't die.
yeah. But the thing is, I like that she didn't because if she had ended it when everyone was getting the cure and it was working before it stopped working, it wouldn't have resolved anything in the series. Like,
Yeah.
there was not a plague from the start. The plague was kind of just an added experience for the characters. The
Yeah.
what needed to be resolved was resolved, which was the relationships between the love triangle that we had going
Yeah.
throughout the whole book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like how you said that, you know. It was honestly that part quite literally was like the eye of the storm when you're right in the middle and everything feels calm and you're like, "What the heck?" And then you're like, "I still I still have like 12, 20 chapters, you know? Like I still have like 20 chapters left to go. Like what could possibly happen?
Yeah.
Betrayal, backstabbing, death." And you're like, no, not what I wanted. No. But then for it to be all over, it's like, oh, I feel so
Yeah.
relieved. I can sleep at night now.
So throughout the series, there's constant talk of a pilot, and in the poems, there's a pilot, a physic, and who was the third person? Oh, it was the poet, I think. Does that ring a bell?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So back to my point. Um,
Yeah.
I really liked how, in the end, not only did Ally Condie wrap up all the love triangle and make everyone happy, but she also had the so called pilot, the person who was leading the rebellion, say, it was either the pilot or somebody else was telling them, no, you three are what the poems are about. Xander's the
Mm.
physic, Kai's the
Mhm.
pilot, and Cash is the
Mhm.
poet. And this whole
Yeah.
time in the series, they're looking to who's the pilot, who's the poet, and who's the physic. Like they know the physic. They're like, oh, it's this mysterious. Like someone's gonna come up and like be able to heal everyone or whatever. And then they're told actually it was you three. So not only was it relationally resolved, but it also was resolved in the sense of the societal issues that were happening. Now, there's no
Yeah.
tell of what the government looks like now because the main point was to get the relationship straightened out. But it does use those relationships to be like, you three are the pilot, the poet, and the physic that were talked about in all the poems that were helping the rebellion that like did a good cause outside of your personal issues. So I really liked
Yeah.
how that was used, and
Yeah.
how it brought the characters into a different light where they were like, oh, they didn't know that they had that kind of an impact on
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, and I think that's so good. The symbolism is really um evident, and I think the way you put it was just so it was so clear and so eloquent. I'm like, I love that. Thanks for sharing that. And it it's so important to remember, like, um they are looking to this what they think is a person. They're looking to the pilot, the poet, the physic, and they're thinking that it's one specific person, when in reality it's more of a concept, an idea, a um a way of thinking about life. It's a lifestyle, and um not necessarily like an actual individual. Yeah, I just really like that symbolism, and I like how it shows that, yeah, it's a way of life, and they all three embody those lifestyles wholly, completely. Um, and I just love that it's like, oh, well, okay. It's not an actual individual, it's a way of life. And it's the ways of life that I think the society tried to stifle out of people. You know?
Yeah.
There's the pilot, and I think that's the adventure seeking part of like, I need to go on a new adventure and I want to explore new things and I want to see the heavens for what they are, and I want to, I'm willing to go far and wide to just discover things. And then there's the poet, and it's like, what new words can I say? How can I look at life and describe something in a way that I've never described it before? And the medic or the physic, it's like, how can how can I solve problems in ways that people haven't thought of before? And all three are like different avenues of creativity. And that's what the society was trying to get rid of, which was creativity. They only
Yeah.
have the top 100 songs and top 100 poems, and everything else is censored and everything else is removed. And, but you can't be creative. You're given choices for yourself. You can't make your own decisions. And so it's really nice to see that all three of them begin to embody different ways of being creative. So I like that. I like that a lot. Thanks for those thoughts. That's really helpful.
Yeah. And it's also like um, the fact of they don't realize that they're fulfilling those roles. They are just thinking, I enjoy this and I'm doing what I enjoy.
Yeah.
And then later it's
Yeah.
like, oh, it had that impact. I didn't realize that. They're saying, I just want freedom to be with who I want to be with and be able to write and yeah. But they're not realizing that it's part of a bigger that want and that desire is part of a bigger picture that they aren't seeing when they're
Mhm.
doing it.
Mhm. Yeah. That's well said. Oh, I love this series. I love it. It's so good.
How would you rank this
I know that
series?
last what rate the series?
Yeah, over other series that you've read before. How would you rate it?
A 4.5 out of.
4.5? That's good.
Mm-hmm. I think like the Lord of the Rings and like the Hunger Games take 5.
Mm.
Um, I think the story itself is set up in a much different way than how this series is, but I really enjoyed this series. I love
Yeah.
how this series it just takes such a different like avenue and route for how to solve conflict. And a lot of it ended up being relational and not necessarily like physical or societal or whatever. Um, so yeah, I absolutely I absolutely love this series though. It hits all the right spots. It hits all my heartstrings. So yeah. What about you?
Um, I would say this is a tie with Hunger Games because they're, um, like I've said in previous episodes, they're a similar societal setup, but there are two different goals in between the two series. So I think for this kind of like um, setting where they're not trying to fight against the society and they're just trying to get their own path, it's a really good series. So I would say probably the same rating for 4.5.
Yeah, I love it. All right, audience, if you want to give this series a read, please let us know. We seriously recommend it. It has been really good to read. It's not the most complicated read, but it is really fun to follow along, and you're gonna find that you're just always on the edge of your seat reading this. So, let us know if you guys actually ended up reading this book. And do you want to announce the next book that we'll be reading? Do you
Yeah,
want to do that?
yeah. Um, so we actually have changed our next current read. We we found something better, basically. We found something that we think we would enjoy a lot more, and we think that a lot of you would appreciate if you like classical literature. So, we have decided to have our next current read be Little Woman
Yay!
by
Little
Louisa
Women
May
by Louisa May
Alcott.
Alcott.
Yeah.
Ah, we're so excited. You guys,
Also,
yes.
it's in honor of its 150th anniversary. This is the 150th
Yes. Look
anniversary
at how cute the
edition.
cover is.
Yeah.
I love
So,
how cute the cover is. Oh, I'm so excited.
yeah.
We were looking at some of our to be read list, TBR list, and we realized that there's a lot of classical literature that we both really wanted to get back into. It's a style of literature that I think a lot of people are familiar with, and we really wanted to expand our genre of things that we want to talk about. So we wanted to do something cute and also just a really good story. And, I'm sure a lot of people have seen the Little Women movies or you've already read the books. So this is kind of just a return to classical literature, and we kind of want to look at it through um, the lens of more like breaking it down and just seeing, how we felt, but also like, can we find symbolism? Can we find this, just analyzing it a little bit more and unpacking it. So we're really excited. Um, we'll be reading Little Women. And I'm not sure if we'll complete it by next week, but we will definitely start talking about it next week. And if we need to spend multiple episodes on it, we probably will. So we're really excited. And if you guys have read it before, let us know. If you want to join and tag along, we would love to read it with you guys. And we also just want to hear your thoughts. So we're really excited.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really excited. I've seen the movie and I really liked the movie, so I was like, "Oh, we
Me
should
too.
do the book."
Yep, I
uh,
agree. I concur. Anyway, all right. I think that wraps up this episode. Once again, if you guys want to go ahead and follow us on our socials, we would love it. it gives us dopamine when we see you guys follow. So thank you. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, and we are on YouTube now. So we are recording our faces, our beautiful librarian faces, for you guys to see and enjoy, and you'll get some really funny and genuine reactions out of us. So please go ahead and give us a follow there on YouTube, and everything is linked in our Instagram bio. You can find us at the lattelibrarians.pod. We would love it if you guys followed along and just kind of enjoyed and read with us. So, yeah. And any last thoughts?
Um, Not particularly. This is a really, really good read. Definitely recommend if you like kind of a dystopian vibe. And like you've heard in this episode, there's a lot of like things that you could really pick apart and how they would be represented, and twists and turns and ups and downs and tears and smiles and all of it. So yeah, I just to recap this whole series that we've been going through, we have Matched is number 1, and then Crossed is number 2, and Reached is number 3. They're all by Ally Condie. And I wrote a little poem based on this series that I want to read to our listeners before
Oh, you
we
should.
check out. So let me pull it up really quickly. Um, okay, so it was just first draft. I didn't do any edits afterwards. But this is kind of reflecting, I would say, Kasha's perspective, but it also is capturing everyone else's, but through her perspective, I would say. So it's really short, and I hope you enjoy it. I thought you'd always be my match, but then I found him. The lines he crossed to reach me, the journey I walked to get to him. Two hearts so different find each other despite the distance. I was told to be with you, but deep down I wanted him. When I look in your eyes, I can see your pain. I wish you could dance in the rain. I wish you wouldn't be in my past, but that's something from you I can't ask. I'm happy you reached love. Deep down, I hope you don't wish it was me. So it's kind of as if Cash was writing to Xander, being like, I only wish the best for you. I couldn't be with you, but I hope you end up with someone that you love, because in the end, they don't live near each other. So she's kind of like, I hope that when you're with her, you don't think of me, but I hope that you enjoy being with her, which is Lay. So just to
Aw,
wrap up.
that's so cute. I loved that poem. That was really good.
Thank you. Yeah, just to wrap up the series, and yeah, so I really hope you guys give this series a read. It's definitely really good. And I really, really, really want you guys to read along with us in Little Women, because it's so cute and such a classic. So yeah, do you have any final thoughts, Ash?
It'll be sad to see the series go. You know, it's been such a enjoyable read for us for the last few months. So it'll be sad to see it go. But at the same time, I know that it's a happy ending and that it's a good conclusion to this series. You know, it leaves you up to your own interpretation of what happens next. And just knowing that these characters are with each other, and the problems that we thought were going to be solved may not be solved, but in the end, it doesn't really matter. So I thought it was a really good conclusion, and I'm excited for our next read. I'm really excited to dive into Little Women. So
Yeah.
we're looking forward to hearing from you guys. And as always, we love hearing from you, and we want to know any questions that you guys have, or any comments that you'd like to make, or if you've already read this series and you want to give it a review, let us know. We would like to hear from you guys. Anyway, so thanks for tuning in today. We always love it when you guys are listening. So, um, yeah, have a great Wednesday. Enjoy your week.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, guys.